And then lastly, there will be a raffle giveaway of a $25 Visa gift card at the end. So you definitely want to stay at the end because it may have your name on it. So our panelists for today's discussion are men who will be sharing their experience as a father, supporting the mothers of their children who breastfeed, or as an advocate on this topic in their profession. Our first panelist is Jared Jenkins, who is a certified postpartum doula. Next, we have Michael Murphy, who is a clinical nutritionist for WIC. And last but not least, we have John Jackson, who is a father to Sophie, who's also on the camera right now, Sophie, and part of the Healthy Start Parent Program. Welcome, gentlemen. Definitely looking forward to the knowledge that you'll be sharing with us today. So let's get right to it. So the first question, and I'm going to defer this to Jared. So what is a postpartum doula? It's threefold. What do they do? And what propel you to become a doula?
Well, first of all, good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for inviting me to kind of chat here today. So I am a postpartum doula. A doula is just the male version of a doula. And so a doula is really there to be an advocate for you in the room. It's a many-faceted role. It's for an advocate in the room. It's for an extra added layer of support when you're in the postpartum period, specifically for postpartum doulas. There are many different types of doulas. But we're really there to give guidance and fact-based guidance for people who are going through the postpartum period. And so I decided to become a postpartum doula because I was a father. After having my first kid, I had so many questions. I had so many experiences that I didn't really have answers to. And when I was coming up on the birth of my second child, I really started to seek out those answers that I was sort of looking for the first time around. And I thought, like, how come I didn't have this information before? And how come we can't make sure everybody has this information so that we can better prepare our families and our community? And so that's the reason why I became a doula.
Got it. Thank you, Jared. And I know we kind of touched on this during our pre-meeting. So before we provide what the solutions are that you gentlemen are going to share, but let's kind of talk about the issue. So like, why do you think that why is it so important that us as men be involved with the breastfeeding awareness for mothers? Like what and how can we make this a normal thing moving forward? It could be for you or Michael.
Well, go ahead, Michael. I'll let you.
Yeah, so just being a source of support and making breastfeeding is the natural and normal way to offer your baby food. People have been doing it since the beginning of time, and it's only been since the last couple of centuries that formula was introduced. And so we need to get back into that, breastfeeding, make it more normal. And a way of doing that is being there for support, allowing moms to, do what they need to do, and just making it a family affair, so to speak.
Sure, I can just kind of echo kind of what Michael was saying. This, I think, is an issue that kind of what we were touching on previously is that we just need to find solutions for. And us having this event is part of that. Women have been doing this for quite some time, since the dawn of time, and we should be able to have this conversation naturally and be able to find solutions to get men and supporting partners back into the role of doing just that, which is supporting the breastfeeding. And so this is why this event is so important.
Definitely, I agree with you both. And also, not only we always say it takes a village to raise kids, but it takes a village for this type of issue as well. Not just fathers. I'm not a father yet, but uncles, brothers, you know, and I think that, you know, us being providing that male presence and that support, women really would greatly appreciate that because they already bear a lot already, you know, overall. So, and just to kind of take a little funnel approach, like how has you personally? I know Jerry, you're a father of two. Like, how have you personally helped your baby mother or the mother of your children, and in ways like what did you actually do to support? Like from if you can provide an example.
Yeah, so the first time with my son when we tried to breastfeed around, like we were just completely ignorant to the whole thing. We just thought like, you know, she's pregnant, she had a baby, like milk is naturally just going to flow from her breast and then everything is going to be like perfect, right? But that's not the case. So like you have to, it's like a supply and demand sort of thing. Educating myself was the biggest part of supporting my wife when breastfeeding became a thing. Um, because she had some questions that, you know, I didn't necessarily have answers to. And so once I became educated on breastfeeding and uh, the different ways in which you can breastfeed, the different positions, the how to make sure that milk is flowing, things of that nature. Once I become educated on those things, I was able to properly support her moving forward. And so encouragement is a huge part of that. Not only partnering that with education, encouragement is a huge part because I mean, we're not the one physically breastfeeding, but we can like say, hey, like, you know, you're doing a great job. Like, don't worry, the baby's getting everything that they need. Like, things like that go a very long way. And so also just making it so much easier for my wife was a huge help and support to her as well. Because just as we mentioned, breastfeeding is taxing on the body. And so anything that we can do to like make it easier for them to breastfeed, like putting all the supplies in one area or, you know, making sure the baby has everything else done and all she literally has to do is breastfeed, like things, just little things like that. Like that's how I supported. But again, I think education was the most important piece that I was missing initially. And that's what kind of helped to propel me supporting people in the future.
Got it, got it. I'm pretty sure, as you mentioned, your wife appreciates that, you know, 1,000%, you know, to have that support, you know, from her husband and a father for children. John, I know you're a new dad. You have a 3-month-year-old. So in what ways have you supported or are supporting your partner to succeed in their breastfeeding journey?
Yeah. Basically just being there at like any waking moment, like gotta cook, clean, like I got her milk bags, gotta get her milk bags for the storage for the milk for her. Like just making sure that she eat everything, making sure that she's not cranky so she can actually take the boob to eat it. Because sometimes she'll just sit there and play for like 2-3 hours thinking she's hungry when she's really not. But then when you put her down to try to play with her or something, then she get hungry. So it's like you never know when it is. So other than that, like just staying motivated, not talking down, trying to be upwards with everything I'm saying. Trying to keep the baby cheerful, keep her cheerful. That's all. Just
Good.
being around.
Now, John, with that too, have you run into any challenges thus far? And if so, could you share?
Not really.
Not really.
It's just my girlfriend be up at all types of hours pumping her little thing. But other than that, it ain't really like a challenge for me because I'm really not going through it. So it's like I gotta just sit there and just listen to what she's telling me because I can't really actually feel the full brunt of it. I'm helping, so it's like I don't. She really going through all the stress of the breastfeed. I'm just here for just a leaning shoulder. So
Right, understood, and I'm pretty sure she appreciate that as well. And I think, and just to kind of go back to when I, you know, compliment on Jared, like just having that presence, having that support goes a long way. We kind of touched on in our pre-meeting. We don't go through half the stuff women have to go through, you know. So the least we could do is be that support, be that encouragement, be that motivation. So I think you're definitely doing an amazing job thus far as a new dad. So Really, really appreciate, you sharing that, advice and your experience with us. So next question. So what do you think? So we're Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated, Chester Alumni chapter of Kappa Alpha Psi. We actually service the city of Chester, Pennsylvania, as well as Delaware County at large. And again, this is something that is definitely an issue, and just we're trying as a fraternity is try to create more awareness to help, as I mentioned earlier, help, provide some types of solutions for this very disparity. So what do you think we can do? And I'm over to say anybody on the panel. What do you think we could do to help increase breastfeeding rates in Chester and Delaware County at large?
I think
Well,
more
no, go ahead, John.
like more promotion, because I think everybody's not promoting it right. Like for the breastfeeding, everybody think it's something wrong, but like all this formula, that's really the wrong stuff to be giving your kid. Breast milk, everything in one go.
Yeah, and I kind of can just echo what John was saying. Like promoting breastfeeding should be the first thing we should be doing, as opposed to promoting formula, because you see so many commercials and advertisements and marketing for formula, and breastfeeding should be the first thing. I know that that's a much larger conversation, but it's about the idea of getting breastfeeding in the forefront of people's minds. Like that's the first option we should be thinking about, as opposed to formula. And part of that also starts with before the baby comes. So like having that conversation with the parents to figure out how are you going to be feeding your children, and making sure that we're advocating for breastfeeding much earlier in the conversation when we're talking about feeding your children, so that number one, that seed is growing, but then also giving them the information supporting breastfeeding so that they are looking at it in a more favorable way. Again, huge advocate for education, but we just need to start way earlier. And so way before the baby comes, we should be having that conversation. And when they're in the room with these appointments with the moms, the dad should be there, and they should also be asking these questions surrounding breastfeeding so they can get themselves educated. So to answer his question and to piggyback off of what John said, number one is promote it, but also just have the conversation a lot earlier. So then that way we can talk about it more.
Definitely, I agree. And I also, why I was thinking about, the promotion, it's always about the formula. We know that's not good. And again, I'm pose this question to Michael. And again, I know what WIC, I've heard of it, but I don't know all what it involves. So what I'm thinking, and part of my ignorance, I know WIC, you can get formula for free, right? So Michael, what do you like in your field of work? What are you seeing in regards to, I guess, some of the clients that you're working with? Are they just give me the formula, or are they moving to breastfeeding? So can you kind of walk us through what that looked like from your role?
Sure, yeah. So when moms come in for their first appointment when they're pregnant, we have it's the breastfeeding promotion, or we talk about it, what their goals are. Do they want to breastfeed? Do they want to formula feed? A lot of moms are on the fence, and so we ask them what they know about breastfeeding, what have they heard about breastfeeding. And a lot of it is like, oh, it's all negative, like it hurts, it's painful, sometimes you can't produce enough milk. And I'm like, yes, all that's true. And then I go into would you be open to hearing some of the other things about breastfeeding? And everyone knows that breastfeeding is a healthier option. And so I just go into the benefits of breastfeeding for mom and baby. I let them know that there are several resources out there that WIC has, CLCs on staff that can help them through any issues that might occur. And then just also offering them free resources for CLCs outside of WIC.
Definitely, thank you for that insight and input. Also, I just want to reset the room really quick. So again, if you're just joining, thank you for joining the Brothers Helping Mothers, a virtual panel discussion on breastfeeding. Our panelists are Jared Jenkins, Michael Murphy, as well as John Jackson. And I also would like to acknowledge Henry Thompson, who's on the call. He's actually one of my fraternity brothers and also the CEO of the the Community Health Center for Richmond. And he's the one who introduced us to this initiative of Kappa Brothers for Mothers. So I want to thank you, Brother Tompkins, for being part of this session today as well. So I have a quick story as you guys was thinking about, sharing, how, particularly John, how, his mother of his child have to do the pumping. I have a friend of mine who son just turned 1, and one of her best friends they made a pact that they would go to Coachella for her birthday. But while the dates fell around a time where she was still nursing her son. So what she did, which I didn't know it was a thing, but she had like these type of nursing cups but she made it like fashionable where she was still pumping milk while she was at this, I call it the Super Bowl of music festival. So, and she did like a Instagram reel about it, how much she pumped it like that. But I'm just like, yo, like hats off to you women for doing all of that in the midst of still having fun. She still knew her responsibility as a mother. So again, any mother that's currently on this panel, here are your flowers. Thank you for what you do, because it does not go unnoticed. And I'm not a father yet, and I aspire to become one, but I'm already thinking my wife in advance for what she's going to do, because I see it, and I think it's a beautiful thing for sure. So moving right along, I have 1 or 2 more questions. So to this post to anybody, if you had a friend who was about to give birth and they were interested in breastfeeding, what advice would you give them?
I'll say that to stay strong, to don't give up, and to know that they have a lot of support around them. There is gonna be tough times where you're gonna think, oh my God, I can't do this. But no, you can do it. And just encourage them, to keep up the hard work. Because being a mom is not easy, and going through breastfeeding is not easy. But when we have the right people around us, it becomes easy.
Thank you. Is it pronounced Keishla?
Keshla.
Keshla. Thank you so much for that insight.
You're welcome. And I also wanted to comment, like, the most important thing is when moms deliver their babies is having someone in the hospital that will encourage you to breastfeed instead of just giving formula. Because for my experience, I was in a delivery room and they did not suggest breastfeeding. They went straight to formula. And I was like, no, but I want to breastfeed. Like, what are the options? So just having someone in your delivery room that is with you on the same page about breastfeeding will be a great thing to have.
I'd like to offer. Oh, good afternoon. Go ahead, Brother Jenkins.
Sorry, thank you. I was just gonna kind of piggyback off of what Kesha was saying, like having somebody in your corner who is advocating for you is super important, which is why I always say get a doula. But a birthing plan is also going to be super important for those specific situations, because after you have the baby, like the doctors, nurses, and the staff and the team will already know like what your desires are for your baby at that point. So a birthing plan is also going to be important in letting them know that breastfeeding is something that you want to try first. It has also been my experience that they sort of just go ahead and push formula as like a way to feed your baby. But the other thing I'll add is like just one more piece of thing that I think is also so very important. It's a very small thing, but we just don't think about it. Like when the baby is born, like their stomach is so small. Like it is very tiny. It's like the size of a grape. So if like the baby is like on the breast for like 2 seconds and they're like, I'm good, like they're probably full already. But those are the things like people don't tell you in the hospital. And so that was the other thing I was just gonna add on to what she was saying. Like, I think somebody put in the chat, like seek out second opinion. I think that that's so true because there's so many different perspectives to breastfeeding that's important. And not it's not a one fix all kind of thing. And so breastfeeding is a journey. You just need to understand what your journey is and what you want it to be. So just wanted to add that.
Thank you, Jared. I'm just asking everybody, can please hold all questions and comments to the end. Want to give the panel opportunity to answer the question first. If you have any questions right now, please send them in the chat, and we're compiling them to address them accordingly towards the end. So again, thank you for your cooperation. John, did you want to add in on that as well? As a new parent?
As a new parent,
like if you had someone like a friend or a relative that's about to give birth, like what advice would you give to them based off, your experience over these first 3 months?
Stay patient. Don't rush nothing. Just stay sane and just stay patient. Everything's gonna fall into play. But once you start rushing stuff, overthinking everything, that's when stuff just get out of whack and everything just get convoluted, confusing. And it's just way more pressure on both of y'all. Everybody just need to relax, go through the 9 months. What? Yeah, since go through them 9 months, less pressure, everything would be great.
Yeah, so I do. So I have another question too for Jared. Jared, I know you mentioned you have 2 kids. So how has the journey been? And pardon me if you probably already touched on this. Been with your daughter after the first go round with your son? Have you found it a little bit more or less challenging, more second nature?
That's such a loaded question. But yes, I feel like I was a lot more prepared. Here's the thing, right? Like each baby journey is different. So the baby journey that I had with my daughter was like textbook, if you will. Like it was scary how much textbook it was. Like the only thing is that she went like a week past her due date. But my son like was complete opposite of that. Like everything that we thought we wanted in a birth, we got the complete opposite. We thought we were getting a girl, it turned out to be a boy. And I didn't find that out until he was born. They said he was going to be 8 pounds, he was only 5 pounds. So like it was completely different. But with that being said, I was better prepared for it because I knew what to look for, especially being trained as a postpartum doula. I understood what signs I needed to look for postpartum, but then also building upon my experiences from my first child, like how to make things more efficient in the house, like what needs to be done after the baby comes back, like those sorts of things. I think lived experiences really helped me. But the added layer of becoming a postpartum doula was that much more important for my second child because it really just opened my eyes to a whole different aspect of caring for my family at that point. So it was completely different.
Got it. Thank you, Jared. Thank you all for you guys' input. Before I open up the floor for questions, feel free to type them, raise your hand before we do final thoughts. But I do want to acknowledge Jashina Elliott. She is a woman of Zeta Phi Beta, Sorority Incorporated. So Sheena, thank you for joining. And anybody else who's a part of the Divine Nine organization, thank you for joining us on this afternoon.
No problem, Reef. This is great. I just thank the men of Kappa Alpha Psi for just having this event. It's really nice being home with my almost 1 week old now.
Congratulations.
I thought it was thank you. I thought it was good to join. Hear any other tips that I could get?
Absolutely. At this time, if we have any questions or comments for our panel, by all means. I don't see any in the chat, but if you want to just take yourself off mute. By Henry, so Brother Thompson, all right, you're up.
So good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, the Brothers of Chester alumni, for your leadership in putting together these community conversations. So I just wanted to offer some comments and just my own experience. So my son will be 7 tomorrow, and my daughter is 4 years old. When my son was born, he actually was born with a tongue tie. So, and he was losing weight in the hospital. He was 7.6 pounds, and his weight dropped to 5.9 pounds. So he physically couldn't latch, even though there was many attempts. The lactation counselor consultant, she identified it. The pediatrician confirmed it. And so 4 days after we got discharged, he then had the frenotomy procedure through a pediatric orthodontist. And then he was able to latch and breastfeed before we left the dentist's office. So the first year of his life, he was pretty much half and half. My daughter, she was completely 100% breastfed. She never took a bottle. She never took a pacifier. And she went for almost 3.5 years. And I just share that just to say that even because you do have kids, they're born, they're in the NICU, there might be other reasons why they might be put on the formula. The hospital in itself was a baby-friendly hospital, breastfeeding-friendly option, but they're not going to discharge the baby if the baby is at a low birth weight. So the formula and the breast milk, there was still enough antibodies in the mother's breast milk that was being passed on to him that it was still helping in his growth and development. So I just wanted to offer that based on my own experience. And thank you again, brothers, for the opportunity to share.
Thank you, Brother Thompson. Thank you for that testimony. Sheena?
Thanks. Yeah, just to piggyback off of that, I think that's not talked about enough as far as the tongue tie. My oldest daughter, she had a tongue tie, and it was, the doctor said, oh, it was mild. Work with the lactation consultant. Long story short, she didn't get it fixed with the water laser with the dentist until she was 4 weeks old. So at that point, she had already got used to the bottle. But I say that to say a lot of people give up on breastfeeding so quick. I exclusively pumped with my daughter for 10 months. So she still got breast milk. It just wasn't from the actual breast. And I think that's not talked about enough as well. Just because you can't physically breastfeed, you can still pump, and they can still get the breast milk for the nutrients and everything.
Thank you, Shane. Based off that, I have a question from Michael. So does WIC have any resources to help with breastfeeding support? And if so, what are they?
Yeah, so we have, as I stated, we have the CLCs on staff. All of our nutritionists are trained to assist breastfeeding moms. We have a breastfeeding helpline, which I'm going to post that number. Let me see. To which one of our nutritionists is the operator. We also are going on with a statewide initiative to assist breastfeeding moms. It's a peer counselor assistance, a telephone line that anyone in Pennsylvania on the WIC program can call for assistance.
Why are you looking for that, Mike? So with that number, can they also sign up with WIC via that number, or there's a separate form?
So there's there's a separate number. That number is specifically for breastfeeding helpline. I'll get all those numbers for you. I can post all those numbers. So in order to sign up or enroll in WIC, you can go to the Foundation for Delaware County website, or you can go to pawic.com. There's a pre-app that you can fill out, and you can also call the clinics directly or the WIC call center. All the information, just a moment.
No problem. And while you're looking at that, Michael, there's a question posed from Katie. Kate, are there going to be any dads available on the Wake Pier line?
Not that I'm aware of. The as far as I know now is like the peer counselors are just moms who are breastfeeding that are enrolled that work for WIC.
But with that being said, I still do want to encourage dads to call so they can also get that support that they need so they can then support their moms
Absolutely.
with that. Because again, education is important. You can't lean on your own understanding. So
Thank you for that. Any other questions or comments? And Michael, you could take some time at the end. I'm gonna have final thoughts from the panelists, asking any final remarks as well as providing our guests with how they can contact you, and your information, as well. So I don't see any more hands raised. So at this time, I will wrap this up with final thoughts, and we can start with let's start with John.
My final thoughts on this. This is a good program, real informational. Being able to meet new people, understand other people's struggles and other people's great things they're doing in life. Other than that, like mamas, stay out of mamas, stay out of everybody. I want her to talk. She's been so quiet lately. I want her to say something. Say hi, mamas. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Well, yeah, John, I mean, she definitely, she's a beauty. She's been cooperating most of the calls. So hats off to you,
Yeah.
mother of your child, and wishing you well. And thank you just for your courage, with this, as we can address it and provide more awareness on this topic. So thank you again. Next up, I'll move to Michael. Oh, also 1 second. I just got a question I'm sorry, it's for Jared, but I'll wait till you're up, Jared. So Michael, final thoughts?
Final thoughts is, yeah, just be you can offer support by being there, being an ear, preparing your space in preparation for when the baby comes home, letting the hospital know that you are breastfeeding and you do not want, and stressing that to them, that you do not want the baby to be fed formula unless it's an emergency. Having the baby placed at the breast as soon as possible after delivery, initiating that first breastfeeding session, and having the baby room in with mom during their stay in the hospital. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you, Mike. Jared?
Yeah, so I kind of wanted to first say that this is an amazing event, and I really do appreciate Delaware County and Kappa Alpha Psi from really putting this on, because these are conversations that we really need to continue to have. It's really about continuing to like normalize these conversations, if we will, to make sure that we're getting these ideas and these fundamentals really back into the forefront of people's conversations when we're talking about babies and building families. Breastfeeding is super important, and so we just need to continue to have this conversation. So I'm always ready, willing, and available if anybody ever needs anything. John, if you need a doula, holla at me. And also my sister on there who just had the baby a week ago. I forget her name, but also if you need a doula, just let me know.
Yeah.
Doulas are important.
Yeah, and Jared, if you could just type your information inside the chat for the guest, that would be great. One thing, whenever we wrap up something, everybody, most cases, it was a lot of knowledge sharing, which was very value added. But sometimes people just remember that last thing that was said, right? So I know our topic is about breastfeeding. So what is one thing that you learned about breastfeeding, and as a father, as an advocate, and it's like, what is the one thing that you learned that could be something that can stick within our guests' mind when they leave here at the end of this call?
Um, the one thing that I learned about breastfeeding over, my course is really that breastfeeding is, I don't want to say it's a necessity, but it's like something that's like very, very, very important we should all push for initially. Now, there's certain circumstances that not everybody can, but it's something that's important because that's where babies get most of their nutrients from. And so we need to do things, in my opinion, the natural way first before we try anything else. And so it's just a conversation that needs to continue, honestly. I mean, I've learned that not many people are aware of breastfeeding benefits. And so those are the things that I took away along my journey, and we just need to have the conversation a lot more than what we do.
Absolutely, and that's a big key takeaway is continue the conversation and creating more awareness. Like that's huge, and I'm thankful that again, not to be redundant, that us as Kappa men is helping provide this, using this as a vehicle to make this a lot more known, and provide the resources and the solutions that we need, and really encourage as many minority, Black, Black, brown, any type of mother, regardless of the color of skin, push towards breastfeeding, because it's natural, it has its benefits. Michael and John, did you one thing? Well, just based in your work as a WIC nutritionist, Mike, what have you one main thing that you learned by doing this work?
So I can't stress enough like how amazing the body is. And one thing that I've learned, and I love to share this with the moms I see, is that the breast milk will adapt to meet the needs of the baby. The baby has a cold, the saliva from the baby will, tell the mom's body to produce, something needs the needs of the baby. So actually you'll literally see the breast milk change color. If a mom has twins and she breastfeeds one baby on the other, and like on a breast, you'll see a difference in color in the breast milk. It's amazing. The body adapts and meets the needs of the baby.
Very interesting. Thank you for sharing that. And John?
Just to piggyback off of what Mike was saying, they do tend to like differ. Like her right side, my baby more, she breastfeeds on the right side more, so the left side is like more dried up. So it's like nothing comes out of the baby. Okay, the right side. So the right side dried up. Yeah, the right side dried up. So the left side is producing more milk. Cause my daughter, she does like getting on the left side. I don't know why though, but we try to put her on that side, but she doesn't tend to. She just likes being on the left, so she has to pump more on the right side. But other than that, it's more nutritional. It's like what's it, maybe it clears up rashes and stuff. The breast milk cleans up rashes. It's better than putting Desitin on your baby. Like it's good for all types of stuff.
Guys, I just looked at the comments. Katie had made a comment and said, all this talk about breastfeeding that made your daughter hungry. So I see she's starting to get fed.
Getting all whiny and cranky. Yeah, she hungry.
Well, thank you all, gentlemen. Before we close, we do have a raffle, and then I'm going to turn it over to Mia to provide some final remarks and comments. So our raffle winner of the $25 Visa gift card is, I'm going to do a drum roll for my laptop. And please correct me if I'm pronouncing your name wrong, but it's Kalia. Kalia King. Am I saying your name right, Kalia?
Kayla King.
I'm sorry, Kayla King. Thank you for correcting me. Congratulations on your $25 Visa gift card. If you could just send us, if you could send your email in the chat, and we'll get that mailed out to you. So congratulations for our virtual giveaway. So at this time, I will turn it over to Mia to provide final thoughts and remarks.
Hi, everyone. My name is Mia L. I am the education specialist and doula team lead for the Foundations for Delaware County. I just want to thank you for coming to this event today for National Breastfeeding Month. We wanted to do a discussion that was geared more towards dads and partners to show that they are important. They do have an important role in breastfeeding as well as postpartum. I'm sure you've seen Jared on a lot of the Delaware County Breastfeeding Coalition's webinars, panel events. We started doing in-person events and he's helped. John is a Healthy Start and NFP dad. His girlfriend LaRaza is a current Healthy Start and NFP mom right now, and she also used one of our doulas. So thank you for coming. And Michael is one of two male nutritionists for the Delaware County WIC offices that are also a part of the foundation. So I want to thank you guys for being a part of this conversation to bring more awareness to breastfeeding and show dads and partners that they do have a role and that they can be included. So I just wanted to thank you guys for that, and to Larif for agreeing to collaborate on this event, but also future events with the foundation and Kappa Alpha Psi. So with that being said, Larif and I are working on an event for next year. It's going to be April 13th of 2024 at the Keystone Wellness Center, and it's going to be an event for Black Maternal Health Week. The foundation also in the Delaware County Breastfeeding Coalition also have an event on April 12th. So there will be two events for Black Maternal Health Week, as well as the Big Latch is also during this time. So you will have invitations and flyers coming out very soon. Hopefully I'll see John, Jared, I know will be a part of the events. Michael, hopefully you'll be able to be included as well. And again, I just wanted to thank you, and hopefully everybody on the call received some great information and resources. And if anybody has any questions or wants to get information about our panelists, please feel free to email me. I will put my email in the chat, and I'll give it back to you, Larry.
Sounds good. Thank you, Mia. And again, thank you just for this partnership. Look forward to us growing, and providing more resources, as well as just shedding education on this topic. Again, I want to kudos to our panelists, John, Jared, and Michael. Thank you all for the knowledge that you shared. It has been encouragement to me, something to look forward to as I aspire to become a father. And also, I'm sure you guys have enlightened a lot of our guests that have been on today's call. Big shout out and thank you to everybody who tuned in to today's virtual panel discussion. I want to point out that we had 19 guests, and everybody stayed on this call. So nobody left, nobody dropped. So that really speaks volumes. Thank you just for taking time out your schedule to be a part of this discussion. I hope you got a lot of nuggets and, share this with your community. And look forward to seeing you guys in April for our next event. If all hearts and minds are clear, thank you again for your time. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, brother.
Take
Thank
care.
you. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Take care.
Everybody have a blessed day.
You too, John.
Larif, you can stay on for a minute.
We'll do.